Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
America, God shed his grace on thee. Let's keep it that way. Pray, thank, and persevere. We do not quit. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith. God bless America. Followed by, come on, Patriots, get out of bed and dial the number. Real live Patriots, good morning. And a good morning to you on this Tuesday, March the 24th. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they're hustling and bustling right now every day, serving you with a great big spring tire sale. Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And lastly, Greystone Crossing Senior Living. What a beautiful place. 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line. Good morning, Patriot. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Good morning to you. And right now, let's scoot.
Have a wonderful day.
I will, buddy. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to scoot over to the weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental. Hello, Roger and the crew. I'll tell you, they get there early in the morning to serve you with the best of tools and equipment. Right now, springtime. I know the weather's a little unsettled. You don't know if you're going to get a little shower. You don't know if you're going to get a little wind. You don't know if you're going to get a little sun. Well, you got to think about spring and almost time to put the garden in and take care of the lawn. They've got all the tools for you. The best of tools and equipment for long and short-term rental. Glad I said that with an R. And by golly, you get a hold of them today, 678-3122, K&R Rental. And right now, here's Scotty with the weather.
Maybe a little chance of showers, but other than that, pretty decent weather. Good morning with your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron. For this morning, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers in the afternoon with a high of 52. Slight chance of showers this evening, and then clearing off a bit for a low of 28. Now, for Wednesday, 30% chance of snow, highs of 47. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy with a low of 25. Then for Thursday, partly sunny, high of 45. Friday, warming up just a bit, mostly sunny and a high of 48. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
I want to say a big thank you to Scott Mann for filling in for the weather for us this morning. Brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway, 678-3122. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. I also want to acknowledge that you want to look good, and when you look good, you feel good, and that means taking your clothes over to Daryl's Cleaners. Wow. I don't even know. I tried to figure it up yesterday. I think I've been going in there with my Rumply Crumplies for at least 17 years. I mean, that's a long time. And they do such a great job at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And not only the dry cleaning of your clothes, clothes, but, your drapes and your tablecloths, you better get all that stuff cleaned up before you pack it away. And don't forget, too, they're ready to serve you right now. They opened up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and give them the mini pearl howdy, and they'd love to see you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. If you were going to the bank and you wanted to borrow money and they'd tell you about how much it is and the interest rate and everything, they give you all the details, supposedly, and then they tell you to come back in an hour and sign, and then all of a sudden, on this contract, there's all these stipulations, like we can take your house if you're 10 days late and all these other things. This is no different than what Congress and the Senate are doing in the Democratic side of it. They're adding all these little pork things in there because they're doing what you call piggybacking. And it's just not right.
Well, okay. You opened up the floodgate. I'm going to let the water flow. They're not little things. They're very big things. It's a big bunch of money that doesn't go to the American taxpayer. It doesn't go to small business owners. It would go for green energy and carbon taxes. It would also create diversity demands. What am I talking about? There's part of the bill that says, if you're going to hire somebody, there has to be inclusion demands based on your race. And also there's $300 million in that frivolous, stupid bill the Democrats tried to put through. To be chosen for board leadership, you have to be selected on your race. And then also protection for foreign nationals over our citizens to keep their jobs and extend their visas. And solar tax credits. You want me to keep going? You're going to get my blood pressure sky high.
No, let's just hurry up and sign it and then let them cheat us.
I just don't understand this. The premise of the bill was to help small business owners stay afloat, stay in effect, stay in business, keep their employees, and how these demented, and they are, and I don't care who wants to call and argue, demented Democrats that are so selfish that wanted to put everything in their bill to further their party platform needs. I'm telling you, Keith Cottom, you raised the hair on the dog this morning.
Well, I'm sorry to get you so excited, but it is. I'm infuriated. I would like to know from here. I would like to hear from Senator Crapo and Senator Risch, and also that other guy that's hiding under his desk. Mike Simpson.
Yeah, he's been there.
Find out what we are going to. How they're going to look at this thing.
Of course, one of them.
And you can do it on national TV if necessary.
Well, the whole thing boils down to that they say they've got another bill that is ready for acceptance this morning. Have you heard what's in this other bill? Have you heard what's being taken out of this other bill? Have you had a chance as an American taxpayer that's really paying for this bill? Have you had a chance to peruse it and study it and understand it so you can call your congressmen and senators? No! This thing is going to have, wait a minute, this thing's going to have hidden candy in it, and it's not going to be stored around for Halloween.
Exactly right. You have such a way of putting things in perspective.
Well, I'm just upset about it. This whole thing is usury, and it's dishonest, and it's fraudulent. I don't know what other words you want to use. I mean, they're doing things in this bill that are not meant to help the American public. They're not meant to help somebody stay afloat with their business. I mean, green energy money for solar tax credits and carbon taxes, and demanding that $300 million go for people to be chosen for board leadership and other high positions on their race. Oh, come on.
Pelosi was telling about how many pages there was in this. There's over 1,000 pages of this bill.
Yeah.
It's a simple bill.
Yeah, well,
To people.
Nancy Pelosi, of course, is playing her holiness to go closer to God when she starts all the time on the opening of her little dissertations. Well, I'd like to quote from the Pope. I mean, I had my stomach roll over.
Well, what you need to do is take an extra dose of your high pressure pill.
It's too late.
You're telling it like it is.
I'm going to stay that way, too. God bless you and Nancy. Good to have you back. Thanks, Keith. Got to run. Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
You know, what he brought up this morning is absolutely the truth. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. I love that guy. He is probably the most forthright, honest senator that's down in the swamp. He said this country was founded by geniuses, and right now it's being run by idiots. Amen. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Don't get nervous. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday for all. I mean, that word says it all. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. You know, it's not that far away. We're here at the end of March almost, and then we're looking into April, and pretty quick you're going to say, I wonder if my air conditioning unit and everything is ship-shape and ready to go. Well, check it out. Be ready. You betcha. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. You know, this thing that's going on, you know what it's going to do to race relationships in this country? You get more people coming in here, foreigners, opening up businesses and getting their own race to work for them for peanuts. What's that going to do to the average American who can't get along making $7 or $8 an hour because he's got a home to pay for and automobiles and all that?
Yeah, Democrats are not spreading diversity. They're not spreading, we're going to make sure everybody's equal. They're spreading a great big chasm like the Grand Canyon in this country, and they're going to create bigger race problems and race wars than ever before in the United States, because basically what they're doing is tearing people apart.
Well, the Dragon Lady and her lapdog, Chuck Schumer, are going to do more damage to this country than you can imagine. The race relations are going to go to hell. We're struggling with that right now.
Yeah.
The influx of foreigners coming in here. What's it going to do in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I owe you an apology. I missed announcing your birthday, I believe was last Sunday, and so I extend to you a very happy birthday belatedly.
What was that?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Well, my phone had cut out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, I noticed there was a dead spot. I said I owe you an apology because I missed announcing your birthday. I believe that was last Sunday. Is that correct?
Well, it was May 15th.
Oh, it's May 15th.
Looking forward to any more birthdays.
Oh, well, I am.
I'll be 90 in a couple of weeks.
Oh, my goodness sakes. God bless you. 90 years old, and I tell you what, I wouldn't walk by and cause you any trouble because I still think you'd win in the kicking contest. God bless you, Tony.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Thank you. I thought Deanne handed me a note that said his birthday was last Sunday. I apologize, but at least we wished him a happy birthday really early. Denny's Restaurant. You know what? Get out there and go to the restaurant. Enjoy the great food, or call ahead at 678-8786. And they've got curb service to where you can get your meal picked up, go home, kick your feet up, and just go, oh, yeah. Great eating from Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. Whether it's breakfast, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner in the afternoon, afternoon, evening, or all the desserts. They are super good people. Super good people providing a great, great product. You're eating at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. 2 locations, 611 North Oberlin and Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Thank you, Thomas and the crew at Denny's Restaurant. Also, want to mention to you about our friends at Dino's Septic Service. I love these people. Have been with us for quite some time. And, you know, it goes without saying, they do the job that you and I don't want to do. Hold on, caller, I'm a-coming. All the septic tank pumping and the septic and tanks and drain fields installed, backhoe services, water and sewer lines installed, liquid waste removal. You know, come on. Write the numbers down so you have them on file, because sooner or later you're going to need them. 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. You better believe fast, fair, friendly service with the big old truck that says smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. Good, good people. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't know a real Catholic if it bit her.
You know, let me ask you something, Linda. You are a very nice Christian lady, and I have the utmost respect for you. But when politicians start invoking, well, I talked to the Pope, or the Pope said this, or that, or the other, it offends me, because they're bringing in kind of a third-party influence to get what they want on their silly, frivolous bills.
Yeah, they're doing it the wrong way. They're using it the wrong way. Absolutely.
Well, and I'm not going to say that the Republicans haven't done the same thing in the past, but the caveat is, right now, as you know, Linda, people need help. They need assurance. They need financial security. They don't want to lose their business. They don't want to go out of business. They don't want to lose their employees. And this assistance bill was to help them stay at basically a status quo. And then the Democrats want to add all this frivolous attitude to it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, how many people do you know that are probably paying, using solar energy and watching and carbon taxes and junk like that?
Yeah, the whole thing boils down to what the Democrats want, and I don't care who argues with me on this. It was nothing more than to perpetrate parts of their platform that they want to impose, here's the key word, impose on the American people.
Right, yeah. And then I hate this race issue. They have made an issue of something deliberately that's divisive.
Well, let me ask you a question. I don't know if you follow football or not, but there was a rule that was made a couple of years ago called the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule, after Art Rooney from the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. And basically what it was is, and I'm giving you a layman's terminology on it, I'm not reading verbatim, but it was basically you had to interview, so many people of color for the job, and before you made a decision, you had to prove why they couldn't get the job over a white person, etc. I think that's ridiculous, asinine, and it creates more tension and more problems. If I want to hire somebody, and I think you'll agree with me on this, I don't hire on color of skin, I hire on ability.
Exactly. Yes. And it's just, this racing has discriminated against a lot of people who are high in ability but don't fit the race thing.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. It's a kind of a reverse discrimination thing.
Well, it is, and to demand, this is the part that really bugs me. Part of the bill that the Democrats wanted to push down our throats was an inclusion demand that, before anybody's chosen for a board leadership or positions on a board, they had to have, people look at their race to see why they couldn't be included. I mean, when I have a business, I don't care if I've got a room full of board of directors, let's say 10, And I feel like I've got the best people to help that business grow and prosper and be beneficial to my employees. And then all of a sudden I'm told by these demented Democrats, well, you've got to take 3 or 4 of those people off your board and replace them with people of color because that's the new diversity rules. This is garbage.
It is. Because you may or may not get really good people on your board.
Bingo.
Just because of color. And it tears us apart, and it's stupid.
What causes...
It gives people the idea that they can get a free ride because of their race.
That's right. And what causes more dissension and more race contention than the people of color knowing that they can kind of push their weight into a boardroom or into the position of a head coach or into the position of a CEO just based on their skin color, and that is dead wrong.
Right. That isn't the way our country was founded.
Amen. Hey, I always enjoy...
They should be able to do it. They should be given that chance.
Absolutely. Thank you. And God's blessings to you, and stay healthy, my dear lady. Thank you so much.
I will. You too.
All righty.
Bless you and Deanne.
Thank you.
All of our family.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A nice lady, and boy, can she sing the national anthem. None better, let me tell you that. Hey, I know some other people that are none better, and that's Magic Valley Irrigation at 44 East, 500 South of Burley. I'm telling you, old Jeff and the crew, they know that it's irrigation time, and they hope everybody has a really, really good year, and they look forward to serving everybody, and they furnish all the U-bends and the handline risers and the Healy arc welding and the pumps and the manufacturing of wheel line elbows and so much more. They've got experts working for them, too, that know irrigation inside and out. Magic Valley Irrigation with Jeff and the crew. Call them at 678-3101. Magic Valley Irrigation. Good people. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
Yeah, the Democrats are showing their true colors. They're showing how much they love this country and how much they love the people of this country and how they're willing to fight for the people of this country.
Oh, really?
Yes. They want open borders so you can come in. You don't have to be checked with for any diseases. They want money to go to big business in their Green New Deal, which is going to help a lot of Americans out.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they are showing their true colors. They are shooting themselves in the foot left and right. They've done it with the Mueller report. They've done it with their impeachment. Now they're doing it with this stimulus. It's supposed to help the American people that are out of work for no fault.
Well, wait a minute. Stop, Doug. I want to ask you if you agree with me on a comparison. Right there. I have absolutely condemned as low-class, no-class people those that are hoarders, that in the sign or sense of any possible emergency, they run to the store and they hoard, whether it's toilet paper, water, whatever the case might be. So my analogy is to you, aren't the Democrats doing the same thing for hoarding and trying to get everything their way in a bill that's meant to help people?
Exactly. Who was it, Podesta said, let no crisis go to waste?
Well, that wasn't Podesta. That was Rahm Emanuel.
That's it, Rahm Emanuel. Yeah, well, one of those lefties anyway. But I feel that they shouldn't be sending a check out to everybody that makes less than this much money.
I didn't know you could play the guitar, Doug.
Pardon?
I didn't know you could play the guitar.
I liked them pretty good, didn't I? But they shouldn't be giving money out to people that make less than $100,000 because, and this might upset some people, but we've got people on welfare that don't even work, so they're not hindered by this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they had lost their welfare, then help them out, but they haven't lost a job.
That's right. That's right. Well, okay, you're a small business owner, and I'm a small business owner, and a lot of us are suffering. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I've had people say, well, during this time, I think we're going to cut back a little bit on our advertising, which I think is absolutely silly and frivolous to the extent this isn't going to last forever. And once people stop hearing your name and your business, it's out of sight, out of mind. And most of my advertisers and sponsors are keeping on because they know this isn't going to be a long-term thing. And they want to make sure the general public knows that they're in business and ready to serve them.
Exactly. It isn't going to be a long-term thing. It is a short-term deal that is nobody's fault. Well, it's China's fault, but I mean, it is a virus that nobody can control. It doesn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, black, white, brown, yellow, whatever, or LGB or the whole alphabet. It will get you. So we need to stand together. And what the Democrats are showing, that they are not for the American people, they're not for the American worker, they are for big business, big government, and that's all they concern.
Well, here's a bill that was designed. The initial premise, and please tell me if I'm wrong, the initial premise of this bill was to be I hate to use the word aid bill, but let's say a help bill. In a time of crisis when a lot of businesses had to close their doors, the restaurants, and then all their waiters and waitresses were unemployed, and regardless of what the situation is, it was a bill aimed at helping them. Then here comes the Democrats led by Pelosi and Schumer, and they start chunking in things like adding logs to a fire, like, oh, we need a whole bunch of money for green energy because we want to further our promotion of left-wing politics. We want to put carbon taxes on this. We want to make sure that diversity campaigns are forced on issues of board membership and other things. We want to put solar tax credits on there. They started chunking in all these logs on the fire that actually are taking dollars away from the initial intent of the bill of helping people.
Exactly. And same-day registration and ballot harvesting. They would love to have ballot harvesting across the whole United States.
Absolutely.
California.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's nothing can be cheated there. Nothing could go wrong. I feel they should give a tax holiday. This goes to the people that work, the people that pay taxes. This will help them out. If you don't pay taxes, it won't help you out.
You know, and your point is so well taken, and I don't know why somebody else hasn't talked about this when you talk about tax holidays. Those that are recipients, and many are necessary recipients of welfare and government money, etc., I understand there's a need in many cases, but then you also will admit there is not a need to continually being a handout or a dole to people that are too lazy to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And to give them an extra bonus, that's absolutely insane.
Well, it is, because they whether the virus come around or not, they continuing on like they were doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not hurt from this thing.
You know, it's just too darn bad. It's just too darn bad that you, Mr. Martin, and myself, and we can't have the power to form our own cabinet. We'll call Linda Croft and have her on as a member of our cabinet. We'll call some of the others, and we could really rewrite a lot of this stuff.
Exactly. And where they're wanting to put in that the airlines have to reduce emissions in this bill.
Yeah.
What the heck does that have to do with the coronavirus and how it's going to help the people that are suffering from it?
I know, and that's why the American public needs to look and listen and read and study what's going on. Do not listen to the CNNs, the MSNBCs, or the ABCs, or, quite frankly, even some of the CBS people, our network here on this radio station. They come up with a bunch of really, it's like Batman and the Joker stuff that they put forth. And study for themselves. Be aware of what's going on, because this bill the Democrats wanted to slide all those supplements into was absolutely worthless and wasteful.
Exactly. If they want to do something, I wish people would go out there and YouTube Phil Robinson.
Yeah.
And he has put a video out on why the Bible says you shouldn't vote for a Democrat.
I've read that.
Look that up, and he reads passages right out of the Bible.
Yeah.
And he relates it to what's going on and what they're doing. And it will scare the heck out of you.
Real quick, I want to say I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit. I'm going to impose on you to give me a call later today. We need to talk about the senior centers, and I love your slogan, so quickly do that. I've got to get going with some commercials here.
You bet. Hey, everybody, let's do what we can to support the senior centers. I'd say go eat there to leave with a full tummy and a full heart, but when this time of this pandemic, let's donate monetarily to them. Let's say, hey, how much you need to help do Meals on Wheels for a day, or how much can I help you?
Yep.
To do Meals on Wheels for the shut-in seniors.
Absolutely. Again, call me after the program. I've got some ideas for you. Appreciate it, Doug. God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Some people in Washington are saying, and some of these are medical professionals, and believe me, I am not a medical professional. Don't carry the football down the wrong way on the field. But they're saying, we should have a 4-month shutdown. Well, I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. Stand by, caller. I want to remind everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. Now, let me tell you something, folks. I know that at all the locations, they've got brand new inventories of the equipment that you need for all the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying and the grading and the leveling. Oh, boy, all the tough jobs. They've got the equipment, Doosan wheel loaders, excavators, all the Bobcats. Oh, yeah. Better call them today. Stop in. Barry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, with Pelosi, they apparently, thought they were going to, sign this bill, pass along to the president, to the Senate. Well, of course, the Senate, I guess I don't exactly know how it all flowed, but I know Pelosi threw it, wrench in it, but the House is totally insane. But, this is the situation. If they were lucky enough to get it, think of all the things in there that in some cases are permanent, or some of that stuff is lasts for 5 years or something, and you know what I'm talking about. But now if the president, of course, it wasn't going to make it to the president, but if he did and he vetoed it, they could blame him for vetoing the bailout for the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a unbelievably low-down thing to do, and, of course, what's new, at a time of crisis, these people are playing politics with our lives and our, when a person suffers physically, with their health, and then they suffer financially, it affects their health. And, I know we've got to be careful, but, some of this stuff is so devastating when you've worked all your life to put your, to make it so you can retire and.
Well, let me. This is a two-way conversation. Let me play with you here a little bit on what you're saying, and I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. A week ago, you and I had quite a dissertation, and I'm going to say it again this morning. We did on the air. You had your viewpoint, I had mine. I said I'm going to adhere to what the government standards are for kind of laying low in the grass a little bit, stay at home, and I'm going to try to make sure this thing works and that the curve of cases of coronavirus are not increased. I don't want to be a supplemental negative of creating probably another problem. But I said I would adhere to the 15-day period. We're in day 9 of the 15-day period. Now, you and I are not at all on different sides of the fence on this issue. I absolutely, and I'm going to say this and I want you to respond to it. I absolutely agree with what Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said last night, that we have to be smart, we have to be cautious, but we have to live and work and produce to keep America going and thriving, and we'd better do it sooner. We're going to lose America, and I advocate that, and I think you and I are on the same page.
Well, let me tell you something. You disagreeing with me doesn't hurt my feelings at all, because I have my wife, my children who disagree with me at times, and I mean, I'm not thin-skinned. Maybe it seems like it, but I take no offense. I hold no grudges, because none of us have time for that. And so you're right. Maybe we got to just turn this thing loose here in a little bit, and then the people that feel fearful will self-quarantine. But I tell you what, it's just like yesterday I went to Walmart. I went to Walmart on Sunday, and you can't do the 6-foot rule at Walmart, because if you the place was packed, and you just walk down the aisle, and you hell, in some cases there were 4, 5, 6 people in the aisle.
Well, wait a minute. You're in the construction. Wait a minute, Randy. You're in the construction business. Why don't you take the time today to build, and I know you can do this because you're very sharp at building, why don't you build some outrigger pontoons that extend on 3 feet on the right side and 3 feet on the left side, and then when you go down the aisle, you basically pontoon your way like Moses parting the water.
Yeah, I just have to force everybody out of the way. Yeah, it just didn't work. So, hey, listen, you know, I respect people that have an opinion who stand their ground. I don't. Yes, people that are, you know, weak, and I don't disrespect them. I just would like to see them find their way better than they are. So when you and I disagree, I don't. Hell, it happens all the time.
I understand. I understand.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that I'm going to adhere, as I said earlier, to the 15-day program of really kind of being a turtle and put my head in the shell and not peek out until after the day 15. But at that juncture, I am going to go back to a life that I want to lead. I know that sounds selfish to some people, but I'm fed up with this. I think that this coronavirus, and I've looked at the mortality rates, I've looked at the sickness rate, if you will, for the cases versus the mortality, and still in this country, the flu and its virus and concerns and deaths far more serious. I am going to adhere to what's been suggested to stop or help curtail this virus. But then after that, I'm going to go out and live my life, take care of my business, and enjoy.
Well, you know, the sun is very healthy, so you need to get out, breathe fresh air, get in the sun. That'll help kill it if it's got it. You know, did you hear what Rachel Maddow said about our state, our governor? You know, she attacked us for not locking it down, and of course, she knows best. You know, we need to. It's just like the people up in Blaine County. You know, they fly in and out, and so they bring it here and they make us look bad because, you know, whatever. And so it's a shame. I have a buddy that owns. He's an electrician. He owns a company up there, and he has 13 employees. And all of a sudden, one day, 7 of them don't have a job because all of the service work has been shut down because nobody wants you to come to their house.
Yeah.
Even though they're the ones. Well, I can understand. It's a hell of it's a dilemma. But you're right. We've got to come out into the sun and start living because, you know, these truckers are running these trucks, you know, there's no limit on their time. And, you know, thank God we got men who want to go out here and do what's necessary to keep this thing running because I don't want to lose my economy.
There you go. All right, Randy, appreciate you. I really do appreciate your call. Thanks for coming on the program this morning. Thank you. I think that's right. You know, think about this. When these people are saying, these people, there are groups of people in the government and politicians, oh, well, we should shut down everything until June, July, or August, all through the summer. That's exactly what our enemies and the world wants. America to be shut down. Let's go to the weather forecast right now, and I want to remind you, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, oh my goodness sakes, they are so good, and they are absolutely committed to providing expert diagnostic testing to help your hearing health. They've got the best technology available, and they would serve you. All you got to do is call and make an appointment at 312-0957. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. And that's Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, Scottman with the weather.
Maybe a little chance of showers, but other than that, pretty decent weather. Good morning with your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron. For this morning, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers in the afternoon with a high of 52. Slight chance of showers this evening, and then clearing off a bit for a low of 28. Now, for Wednesday, 30% chance of snow, highs of 47. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy with a low of 25. Then for Thursday, partly sunny, high of 45. Friday, warming up just a bit, mostly sunny and a high of 48. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Scotty, thank you very much. Filling in for Gina this morning. And, of course, we're talking about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. For the best of your hearing health, you call and make an appointment today. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You know, really, maybe you disagree with what we've, what we've said or talked about so far this morning. But give me a call. Let me know what your thoughts are. I would really appreciate it. And we were talking about the bill that was supposedly aimed at helping financial stress with our small business owners. And this shocked me when I saw her stand up and display a temper on the floor of the Senate yesterday. I mean, I was watching news clips and taking notes and everything for this morning's program, and mild-mannered, sensible Maine's Susan Collins. Whoa! She even blew up at the selfish crybaby Democrats and basically just put them in their place. Put them in their place. And when you look at the overall system back there in the House and the Senate, you got to say that Congress as a whole is just nothing more than a bunch of kindergartners. We're paying kindergartners to go back and try to run the country. Their paychecks should be stopped. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another issue that I don't agree with, I'll get to that in just a few minutes. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning again. Did you listen to that John Kennedy's comments?
I said it earlier this morning.
Oh, you did?
See, this is where you're never going to win the prize for being attentive.
Well, no, I was taking care of business.
No, I'm giving you a hard time.
But I loved it. Found on geniuses, but run by people who couldn't find their way through the birth canal.
Yeah, but he also said, the exact quote is, this country was founded by geniuses, but now is being run by idiots.
Yeah. And he says, and then he went on to say the idiots probably, it's a wonder they even found their way through the birth canal.
And he said something else in his dissertation that I don't think I'm going to repeat this morning, because he called most of his colleagues on the left side of the aisle another name that he abbreviated, but still I won't put it on my program.
Exactly. I like him. He says it like it is.
Well, he does tell it like it is. And quite frankly, how are you going to fact check against him, even though liberal newspapers and rags try to? But how are you going to fact check against him when he says it, he doesn't apologize for it, he means it, and you know what? The bottom line is it's true.
It is. That's the great thing about it. He doesn't throw out a bunch of baloney. He throws out facts, and he tells them exactly what they're acting like, and that's it.
Well, and he's one of the people back there that and I'm glad you mentioned his name, that you have to like and respect, because he can see the overall picture. He doesn't have tunnel vision. He's not a proctologist by any means. And he can see that we can't go on much further. We cannot go on much further because it's destroying the fabric of America, the future of America for our children, the legacy of America for our families and our children. We have got to stand up and pull our big boy pants on and say, okay. It's very unfortunate that right now to date 593 people have died from the coronavirus, but 15,700 have died already from the flu. Let's start pulling our pants up and getting back to work.
Yeah, and the one that I really, really respect back there is that Dan Crenshaw. And I got a customer just pulling up, so... Well,
tell your customer to come in and get on the radio, like you are.
Gotta go, buddy.
Okay, buddy, thanks a lot. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The last couple of days, I've had a chance to talk to... I don't think I'm ever going to get that in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Zeb. The Democratic Party has become the Trojan horse of our times. And inside that Trojan horse is always illegals that are coming into this country that don't belong here.
That's right. That's right. And I maintain...
I can explain what's going on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if we're going to close the borders down and use any common sense, which today in politics doesn't seem to be two words that politicians can understand, common sense, we should have our National Guard on the entirety of the southern border with loaded weapons. We should guard our northern borders, and we should be very, very cautious of what's coming in, who's going out, where they're coming from, everything else. And that's not happening because the Democrats know once they lose on leaving that border porous on the southern part of the United States, they're going to lose all their incoming votes.
Well, if the trend continues, this country is going to be taken over in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah. I agree with you. And in 30 years, I know that the way you are, and as feisty as you are, you'll still be keep on kicking. Thanks, Tony.
Never give in and never give up.
I love it. Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead quickly.
Good morning again. In part of this bill, it was going to be that if you made over $70,000 or something like that you weren't going to get anything. Now, myself, I didn't make that much, so I don't need to worry about it. But I do know people that make really good money. Should we punish them just because they're successful?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Keith, and I think that we have to look at the whole situation. I mean, there are people, and I think what you're alluding to are business owners that maybe have 20, 30 employees or maybe more, and they've been financially successful in their endeavor to build their company and then create jobs for those to help enhance the business. Why should they be punished? I totally agree with you.
Well, I have a son that manages 3 auto dealerships in Twin Falls. Yes, he makes pretty good money, but now with this downturn, it ain't going to be so pretty.
Yeah.
And they're not going to send him any money? That's not exactly what I'd like to see.
Well, the fairness and the equity of this situation has got to really be ironed out, because those that have worked initially hard enough to propel themselves and their job or their opportunity of their job to where they can hire other people and be basically a leader in the community, I think they're the ones that are going to suffer, and it's a shame. We've got to look at this thing. But for the Democrats to add all these extra supplements just to further their platform, that's despicable.
The Green Deal should be in red.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will make this country very, very poor.
I agree, Keith. God bless you, man. Thank you for your call. Always. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, sir. Hey, I want to remind everybody we're very proud of our major sponsor, and I urge you to stop in. They do everything they can to make sure that everything is just A1 with you as a customer when you stop into any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They care. That's the bottom line. They care, and they respect you as a customer. Please remember, they're going through right now their great big spring tire sale, to where you can save a lot of money and get the best of driving tires with all the different tread designs, all the sizes for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, everything. Stop in and see the best today, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, that the best in service. I mean, they come at a high lope to say, howdy, can we help you? Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley with a big spring tire sale. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Going to take a break for the news. Be back in 7. Don't go away. Oh, here we go. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday, March 24th. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, all 7 of them, having and celebrating a great big spring tire sale. You better stop in and see them today. Along with Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living, beautiful, beautiful place for seniors, 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with their friends. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Holy cow, old Gomer used to say Shazam. Well, I've really said Shazam. I wished I would have got a dumpster a long time ago. I got one of those big dumpsters from Western Waste Services. They brought it over last week, and we've been chucking and throwing things in there. Oh, we're cleaning up. Yep, finally old Zeb's going to stop with all of his pack rat attitude, and we're going to get rid of a bunch of stuff. Oh, it's been fun. Well, you can have fun, too, spring cleaning, and Western Waste is there to serve you with the dumpsters in various sizes. Give them a call, 734-6969. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. Absolutely. Want to remind you about somebody else that I think is absolutely A1, and you really need to make an appointment with these people. If you're aching and paining, I can't move from the surgery or an accident, and you can't raise your arm or you can't kick your leg out, whatever, please get a hold of Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists, they are excellent. And they've got the only one-of-its-kind hydrotherapy pool in all of this area. So please check it out today. Call them for an appointment, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, absolutely the best. Our next gentleman also falls into that category of absolutely the best with the American Energy Alliance. My friend Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Hey, Zeb, I'm well. How about yourself?
I am blessed by God, really. I've just, Deanne and I have had so many blessings, and everything's going so good, and I know there's a lot of concerns right now, more so than before, but you know, you can't live in a bubble. You've got to keep on living, and that's my attitude.
That's the right attitude to have, Zeb. I mean, we can all increase our precautions and everything like that, but ultimately
ultimately we're sort of all in this together, and we have to just work through it. So if we could overcome some of the cabin fever that I think is the cabin fever may get worse than the flu at this point.
I said this the other day, and I'll say it publicly because I think the world should know. If you read an obituary about me and it says suicide, don't believe it, because staying here with cabin fever with my wife, it may be attempted murder. You never know.
I tell you, yeah, I think my wife would probably agree with it. But we're getting along. We're getting along.
All right.
There's some things we haven't been able to do. All of us are in the same boat, and it's. Let's pray that it doesn't turn out to be as bad as watching some of the mainstream media would lead us out to.
Absolutely. Dan, I've got to ask you this, because I don't think there's anybody I could have on this program that could give us a better interpretation of what's going on here. There was the inclination by the Republican GOP to have a relief bill. And I'm just going to say the word relief. You can call it aid bill. You can call it a financial assistance bill, whatever, during this hard time. But what did the Democrats do? They jump in with both feet, and they see this as an opportunity for them to further a lot of their Democratic leftist platform with money for green energy and carbon taxes, diversity demands, and solar tax credits, and cutting back on airlines emissions and everything. Emissions, I should say. This is absolutely ludicrous, and I'm certainly glad they were found out to be what they are, phonies and charlatans for trying to include that portion into a bill that was supposed to help the American public. What are your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't say it better, Zeb. I mean, this is really politics at its lowest ebb. I mean, we've got people out there who are, restaurants that have shut down and can't pay employees. They typically run on a close margin anyway, and people who live off of tips, and folks whose businesses are forced to close by the government, by their state governments, or by the fact that they simply have to provide the social distancing that they can't provide at work, and so what do we end up with? Money for the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, $300 million for public broadcasting system, PBS. $500 million for the Institute of Libraries and Museums, whatever that is. Bailing out the postal, the post office, which has been running in the red for how many years? Decades.
Yep.
Early voting, same-day voting, same-day voter registration, overriding the states in order to. States control the voting in the states, not the federal government, but they want to do that sort of thing. 55-mile-an-hour speed limit for jet airliners, and we all know they stall out. I'm joking a little bit, but they're zero carbon emissions program for jet airliners. What is all this stuff?
Yeah.
It's just it's like they've seen a funeral procession going down the street, and they decide to hop a ride on the casket.
Yeah. That's a very good analogy, and all it is just a perpetration of their leftist platform to take over and control America, and I'll argue that with anybody.
Well, yeah. I mean, what they're doing is, on the one hand, they're saying, "Oh, we need to do this, but rather than make sure that people have enough money to eat, which is what this is all about, and we don't collapse our entire economy in the wake of it." I don't like any of this, to be honest with you, Zeb. I don't like it when the government has to get involved like this.
Yep.
But we have a national emergency, and the response is deemed to be, okay, we need to make sure that as few people as possible die, are taken, and that we've taken proper precautions. But robbing from a blood bank is what these guys are doing.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you something. You and I have been good friends on the radio for years, and if you don't agree with me, please don't hesitate to chide me on this, because I've got big shoulders. I absolutely am going to adhere to the 15-day program that President Trump had said. We're in day 9 of that 15 days right now. But Dan, when this is over, for 15 days. I maintain the same verbiage that Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said yesterday. We've got to be smart. We've got to be cautious, but we have to maintain and produce and work to keep America's legacy. We can't just lay down and quit. That's how I feel.
Yeah, Zeb, I feel the same way. The president was addressing yesterday when he said that we've got to make sure that the cure isn't worse than the disease.
Right.
And obviously, listen, if we think this through, we understand it. If a person hires a landscaper and gave him carte blanche, they might have the most fancy, expensive lawn in the country, and the house is falling down behind it.
Yeah,
and it consumes all the money. And in essence, what's happened here is, in due respect for the scientific approach that's necessary here, the medical approach that's necessary, you call on the experts whose job it is to determine exactly what the impact of the disease might be and the best way to go about that. But their job is, and I heard Dr. Fauci this morning on a local radio station here talking about it. He was asked, do you consider any of the impacts on the economy in any of your recommendations to the president? He said, it's a great question. He said, no, my job isn't to do that. It's his awesome responsibility. This is a direct quote. It's his awesome responsibility to assess the recommendations I make about the disease, and weigh those against the national defense needs, the needs of the economy, the needs to make sure that people aren't literally blowing their brains out at home because they're suicidal because they have no jobs or are afraid to go out and that sort of thing. And so it's the president's job to do that. And I was pleased yesterday to hear him say that we have to be looking at just the very sort of thing you're talking about. When do we get back to work?
Yeah.
We didn't stop working after Pearl Harbor. We went to work. And despite the fact that a lot of people on the West Coast were afraid the Japanese were going to invade and all the rest. And so it's inherently American to see a problem and try to solve it. We've thrown everything we can at this. If we can finalize this nonsense going on with Speaker Pelosi in Washington, and then we've got to pick ourselves up and get back to work. America's a great country. We're the ones that lead the world in the research that's necessary to cure these kinds of diseases. We're the ones whose companies are able to turn on a dime, whether it's World War II with the arsenal of democracy or whether it's today, coming up with answers to these problems so that we can move forward. And it's our system, it's our freedoms, it's our Lord knows what it'd be like to be in Cuba, that has government provided health care, which means you might get a Band-Aid if you go and ask for help. So That's my thought.
No, it's excellent and well said. I will say this, and I'll stand behind this statement, that the longer we go in this, oh, woe is me, I've got to get down in the fruit cellar, and I've got to stay there, and if there's a knock on the door, I can't answer the door, I've got to hide. I've got to stay here for 4 months, 5 months. I can't answer any door. That is exactly what our enemies want us to do. They want to see the economic demise of the United States of America. And like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick from Texas said, we've got to get up, keep working, and maintain our legacy for future generations and not be weaklings and turn it over to those other powers.
That's exactly right, Seb. I mean, there's only one benign superpower in the world, and it's us. And if it weren't for us, a lot of people would be taking advantage of their neighbors and the situation as it stands. And so it's imperative that we get back on top of things. And I believe people are starting to look at that. Again, the typical D.C. politics weighs in, and the media's the media's just been unbelievable through this thing in terms of trying to make conflicts where conflicts don't exist, and playing gotcha journalism and that sort of thing. But we'll get through this. I think a lot of people will look back after it's over and say, "Wow,
yeah,
we didn't realize things had gotten this out of control with respect to a lot of these things." So that's my hope.
Dan, I've got to ask you a question that, coming from me, it's odd to hear this kind of a question, because I love to hear that oil prices are going down, and that for a person that travels as much as I do, we're going to probably see cheaper and more economical prices at the pump. But I have to be realistic, and you're the expert. With low oil prices, what are the dangers of low oil prices?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, Zeb. I mean, there's a matter. It's sort of like corn prices, right? I mean, if you're in corn prices go down, and people who consume corn or use it for grain for feeding livestock or whatever say that's great, but you also come to recognize that if a lot of corn farmers can't afford to pay their fuel bills or fertilizer or buy seed or anything else, there's not going to be any corn for next year, and the cattle starve and die. And that's the dilemma we're looking at right now, because the price has gotten so low, because it just so happens this fight between the Saudis and the Russians over oil has led to, it was happening even before we started seeing the drop in demand. But you combine the two, and it's been an awful time. So we're looking at oil prices in the $20 range, and honestly, a lot of our producers will not be able to continue to produce oil at those prices. I'm not sure it needs a government response right now. The biggest and best thing we could do is get the economy standing back up on its legs. We were going so well. Things were going so well. Never before have we had an economy as robust and it continued to stretch its legs every month in terms of new employment and that sort of thing. And then this came along and literally just chopped the legs right off. So we got to get back up. That will do a lot. But no doubt about it, if the price of beef was 10 cents a pound, pretty soon you'd find out nobody was producing beef.
Yeah, I think your analogy is a very good one, because my concerns, and the reason that question hit me this morning earlier when I was preparing for the program, is that the danger I see to very low oil prices, even though it's going to be great for us consumers, the danger is that it's, I think, playing into the hands of the green energy people if many companies, many corporations that provide the drilling and the fracking, etc., for our energy go out of business because of low prices. It opens the door for the idiocy of green energy. Am I wrong in my assumption?
I'm going to say you're partly right. The fact of the matter is those much lower prices show a distinct advantage to the types of energy that have made us the number one energy producer in the world, oil and natural gas. And right now they're having trouble. For example, the entire supply chain for the solar panels that are used in the United States, the vast majority of which come from China, has been broken because of this flu. So all of a sudden, a lot of these big solar farms and things like that have been put on hold because they can't get their product from China. Which, by the way, Zeb, after 4 decades or 5 decades of trying to get off of Middle Eastern oil, all of a sudden a lot of these green people want to make us dependent on windmills and solar panels whose parts and products are all made in China, just like our pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's time to start looking at that sort of thing too. Whoever would have thought that we'd finally become energy independent, and we turn around and government policies are pushing us towards relying on the Chinese. So if they snap their fingers or wake up on the wrong side of the bed, we're dependent on them. It's very dumb. The press doesn't cover this at all, but it's just a fact. And so those are the things we have to be aware of. But having a strong domestic energy industry is absolutely important to our national security. It was one of the keys to our national security during World War II, believe it or not. I mean, we were the arsenal of democracy because we were able to use our own energy resources to make things and not have to rely on other people, because the Nazis had U-boats sitting off our coast sinking ships.
Right.
And today, of course, they'd be done with a push of button and missiles and that sort of thing. So it's important we do that.
I always look forward to having you here on Tuesdays because you're so informative and you know what's going on. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our dear friend Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance every Tuesday at 9:06. Hey, man, all I can say is thank you. You did it again. You hit a home run this morning. Thanks much.
Well, thanks, Eb. God bless to you and your listeners.
All right, sir. Talk to you next week. Thank you. Dan Kish, outstanding as far as knowing what's going on in the world of energy, pardon me, with the American Energy Alliance. I want to take some time here, and I'm going to take some time here, and thank our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary. Hello, Joel Heward, family and staff, all the folks serving you and your family. The passing of a loved one, very tumultuous time, trying to get things done and organized, and really, you just don't know what to do. Well, these people are there to serve you and help you, and always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and at the same time always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. For pre-planning of funerals, I urge you to call the number 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Really nice people. Oh, boy. Oh, I got some information I got to pass along to you real quick. I want to say a big shout-out and thank you to Let's Ride at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. They were going to have, keyword, an open house on April 3rd. That has been postponed and canceled for right now, but they will keep in touch with us and let us know what's going on, I'm sure. And I do want to remind you that they've got the 2021 snowmobiles on display over there already, and listen to this, they've got all the four-wheelers. They know that you're making plans for the spring and summer to get out of Dodge City and go up in the hills. Well, I'll tell you what, they've got them all over there at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Like I said, open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. All the accessories and a great service department. By the way, they're offering on service to your four-wheelers, etc., 15% off on all service work until April 30th at Let's Ride, absolutely, where the fun is sold. Really good people. And real quick, one other note that I want to make, if you're over in that area, I know some other people that are really, really great to work with, and that's, of course, our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Got a frog in my throat that won't leave. Get back in the swamp, frog. Anyway, I want to remind you they're located on Highway 24, and all your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more with very personalized, dedicated, and responsive service to your needs from Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Todd and the crew serving you. All you got to do is just pick up the phone and make a call, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Great, great folks. We've had this next gentleman on our program many, many times in the past, and I look forward to having him on this morning. He is the president of LabMD, an Atlanta-based clinical and anatomic medical laboratory, as well as CEO of Any Lab Test Now in Virginia. He knows what's going on with the coronavirus, and I can't wait to have him come on the program. Michael Daugherty, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, Zeb. I just arrived in Washington, D.C., and ready to talk to you. Been too long.
Well, it has been too long, but I really respect your knowledge and your input on this story. Let me state where I'm at, and tell me how wrong you think I am in my thinking, Michael. I'm going to go along, like I said earlier many times on the program this morning, I'm going to go along with the basically hiding out in the old Zeb at the Ranch Hotel for 2 weeks, 15 days. It's day 9 right now of those 15 days. But then at the end of the 15 days, Michael, I've got to make a living. I've got to keep my business intact. I've got to live a little bit. And I think that we as a nation are succumbing to the fears of coronavirus that may be a little bit exaggerated. Now, go ahead and chew me out.
No, I agree. Because for some reason, people, we're lazy. We're spoiled and we're lazy. So we want to, and we have no attention span, right? So we don't want to revert to science and talk to our doctor and have a one-on-one relationship with our physician because we believed Hillary Clinton and Obama and we voted in politicians to take over medicine, and the infrastructure's trashed. Now, the infrastructure's trashed because, for some reason, this generation, unlike others, decided that when sick, they should call their congressman. And it's okay to listen to people that don't know what they're talking about. And not only do they not know what they're talking about, they have an advantage to exploit us, fear-induce us, because they just want power. You keep us ignorant of what's going on, and you drink the Kool-Aid that they're our friends because they act friendly. So your friends are not people that act friendly. Then you get stuck in situations like this. Right now, what are you supposed to do? You pretty much have to work on worst-case scenario. We're ruled by the insurance carriers, the politicians, the media, and the lawyers. So, worst-case scenario, 15 days. Well, really, most of this stuff incubates 5 to 7 for the vast majority. The vast majority are not going to get anything more than mild illness. The vast majority are going to fully recover. So this is what happens when you let Pandora's box out. Like, how many people should we ruin the economy for because they could die? How many times do we have to go run back in if people keep recontaminating. So, and then we have what's going on the Hill right now, which is, once again, we put these people in place, we see what they're really like, and what are we doing about it? Nothing. Do you think Nancy Pelosi's about health care? You haven't been to San Francisco in about 15 years. Filthy, disgusting, dangerous. So this is all going to be rearview mirror stuff, because no one's really paying attention to the real facts, and everyone's wanting to exploit it. So I think you're okay quarantining yourself. I just got off a commercial plane, where there were 5 people as passengers from Atlanta to Washington, D.C., and I choose to not quarantine myself. I watch from around. I wash my hands. But I work in medicine, so it's such a crazy town right now. I can't wait for the rearview mirror. But the people that made it this extreme will never allow the truth to really come out. So, you have to do your own personal choice.
I'm so glad to have what you just said be said on my program, Michael. And let me ask you this. I'm an old man. I'm 72 years old. And I do have some underlying health problems. And I think I'm looking at it like my wife and we're going to be a little cautious for a little while. But then on the other hand, the flu in this country kills at least 30 to 50,000 people a year. And we're talking, and I'm not trying to minimize, as a matter of fact, I'm trying to be very gracious and honor the people that have passed away from the coronavirus. Right now, this morning, 593. So the equation of saying the flu at thousands upon thousands of deaths and 593 from the coronavirus, I question why I'm staying home at all.
That's right. But, here's why you're staying home. It's an election year, and the powers that be, they'll do anything they can to position a war, because they're so corrupt, they're so attached, there are thousands of people in Washington and in the tentacles of power of Washington that have crossed the Great Divide, and when you go in and you become a swamp dweller, you can't come back. And if you're kicked out, there's nothing. It's like the mafia. They've got lifelong appointments. They've got no accountability. They don't know what they do if that whole thing folded. So they're fighting for their own survival. That means when you're in survival war, there are no ethics. There is no consideration of anyone else. It is survival war. And you see this today by what they're doing just with this package. Just look at the details of what the Democratic Party has done to the bailout package, the economic sustaining package. They've insisted on things out of a extortion racket, a leverage, a gun to the head, that if you want your health bailout, you got to give us all this stuff that has nothing to do with the health bailout. And it's just politics as usual for them, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what we have to understand. It's our fault that we have people like that there. And you have to work to hold them accountable and get rid of them.
Let me ask you, Michael, on your information sheet that I was reading, there was a comment that the coronavirus will change how we shop, travel, and work for years. Do you agree with that? And how dire and dangerous is a statement that one virus at one particular time in our world's history is going to absolutely change everything? Do you agree with that?
Well, let me define what I mean by that. I don't mean that we're going to be living like this for the rest of our days. We will not be. But I do mean that we are now seeing, and in some ways it's a good thing, there's no one that can excuse what Nancy Pelosi and Schumer are doing right now. There's no one that can excuse that. Okay, so the question is how many cracks over the head to the people that support those politicians? Your friendly-sounding people that you mistakenly think are your friends, the people that you think are arguing for all the political nice stuff that you think you're for because you want to think you're a nice person. You got to see what this is a rare glimpse into their soulless existence. And so we'll now see what they're willing to break, what they're willing to stop, what they're willing to go to force this type of dystopia type craziness that they want, which isn't possible at all of our expenses. And I mean, they really have us locked in our houses. And are they focused on China, China, China? Are they focused on what the hell? Are they focused on forcing us to be able to, allowing us to be able to sue China like we were allowed to sue Saudi Arabia after 9/11? Has anyone brought that up?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any? No, they enable the gaslighting by, and this is what you have to understand about these people. I'm hoping that it's different, that we understand them at a different level now, because it's not what they say. It's what they say is just a red herring. It's 2%. It's what they do behind the scenes. It's what they're not putting a spotlight on. That's where the dirty stuff goes. When you do the dirty stuff, you hide. So they come out the cameras and they'll say anything, and they're shameless actors. I mean, shameless. And then the media is in the bag with them, and they're just, like they're, I don't know what you call them. They're surrogates. They're political surrogates that keep, not showing us what really goes on, not talking about China. They turn it into, here's a shock, racism. Because it's the Chinese virus that started in China that they didn't disclose. And when disease and science meet politics, it never goes well.
Mm-hmm.
Because disease is going to beat politics. It's going to destroy lives. It's going to destroy people. And they're fine with it as long as it's not them. And disease doesn't care where it starts. It's just a scientific fact. And had we known about it earlier, there's a multiplier effect. And if you multiply 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, if you get that just when there's three rounds, it's a small number. You take that same beginning 2 weeks down the road, it's a huge number. And each doubling's even more. So we could have really contained this way earlier had we had transparency. But we politicized science. We politicized, medicine. They punished physicians. It's just absolutely outrageous. And the final thing that these people use for their defense is that what they do is so outrageous and offensive. And most of us feel powerless and afraid that we just whistle past the graveyard, look the other way, and hope the tree doesn't fall down on us.
Right. Michael, I want to back up a few spaces on the Monopoly board here in our conversation, and I've got to ask you the origin of how we, the American public, and our politicians were so stupid to allow China to take over our medicine production, our pills, all of our medicines, and we pay them $180 billion a year. And now if they want to use it in politics or political ways and means against us, they've said, well, we'll just hold some of the antibiotics, etc. How did we get into this position, and where was the oversight on this?
Well, it all started when Richard Nixon decided he was going to make China some sort of valid world power. But if you want to move way forward from that, it's all these politicians, but way more in the Obama administration, that everyone, it's politics. And no one wants a war, and no one wants to fight, and everyone gets exhausted. So everybody wants to try to give the rabid animal a little cookie, hoping that that'll turn around and being rabid. And it doesn't. It just lets them eat a little bit for a while. And the Chinese regime is not going to change. And so we've elected these idiots. I mean, I saw Senator Kennedy yesterday from Louisiana say that Americans right now know that our founding fathers were geniuses and idiots are running the country. And that's exactly true. I mean, you go and you see Barack Obama bowing to these despots in thinking, I mean, what kid on a playground that's getting beaten up by a bully thinks, if I go put my hand out and act really nice to that bully, he'll be nice? I mean, this is basic stupid thinking that's the foundation of some of our political moves.
Absolutely.
And we have basically let the vampire inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're learning. And hopefully one of the big changes will be we're going to yank that stuff back. And hopefully these people are going to smack in the face and understand why you now have to protect your borders. And you now have to watch who's got your access. And you can't leave yourself vulnerable because people, forget the word evil. People are bad. We have enemies, period. You don't want to think they're evil? Fine. I really don't care. On whatever definition you want to use for your politically correct mind so that you can know that these people are going to hurt you unless you protect yourself. But there evidently is a legion of softies in this country that think that, enabling being nice to a rabid animal is what good people do.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you. And, caller, you're on the air. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Zeb, could it be a possibility that we're looking at chemical warfare, and also that this thing travels so fast all over the world? Could the medicine be contaminated? I'll just listen.
That's a very good question, Michael. If you heard the question, could this be somewhat chemical warfare, or are our meds contaminated? Would you respond to that?
Well, I don't know if it's not necessarily chemical warfare because it's going to turn against itself. This is what happens though when there's it's a warfare of theft. Okay, when you steal something, you don't know how to work it compared to if you invented something. The Chinese are parasitic thieves. They've been that way for decades. It's okay, right? They steal from us like crazy. And it's about the people at the top that want to keep the power on the people from the bottom. And so they give them enough chits so that they have their survival in their lives, and they're complicit, they're compliant. So I do think, until proven otherwise, that this was gross incompetence covered up by corruption. Because this is what politicians do. Politicians don't have a job. I don't care what political world you're in, as far as they don't have a job where they produce a product. They don't make a car. They don't provide a service. They're just dependent on thin air and BS. And I'm not picking any party there. And I'm not picking any, whether it's socialism or capitalism or communism. They sit there and at some point they come to the crowd and go, I'm your friend. But none of them are accountable to the people except in democracy. And we've allowed our power over our government to be chipped away so slowly over the past century that we don't know how much it's changed. And we're not taught about it. So I don't think it's chemical warfare. I don't think the pills are contaminated. I don't think it's that simple. I think it's gross misconduct, and I think it's the scientific community's weakness of being in this where they go, oh, well, we can't use that pill that's been out for 65 years, whose side effects we know completely already. We can't use that because we haven't had clinical trials. That's the weakness of those idiots, okay, because they're used to having an artificial world. No one's used to this, so it's going to bring out everyone's weaknesses. Those pills, should be used, obviously under the advice of a physician and the observation of a physician. But this is not some newfangled drug that we just invented last week, that we have no ideas how it's going to work in people, and everyone's a guinea pig. That is not what's going on. And so, over time, you'll see this crack in the next week or two, but we're lucky we have Trump in there right now, because Trump is the king of not giving a damn what anybody thinks of him.
Well,
so, and you can see it.
Yeah, let me inject a question right there, Michael, if I could, because I'm almost out of time, and I want you to answer this. I was just going to ask you about President Trump. I was just going to ask you about the FDA and the testing of new drugs and the expeditious attitude that they need to look at new drugs and new vaccines. Is this going to be changed as far as all the rules and the regs, and they're going to say, come on, we're going to put this on a fast track and serve the American people, or are we going to look at the standard 5 to 7 to 10 years?
You don't have to do that. Okay, here's what people don't understand. The FDA doesn't practice medicine. They only control what is allowed to be on the market. These pills are already on the market. Doctors can use them outside of what the FDA says they could be marketed for. So the manufacturer can't come in and say, here's an ad card about using this for this disease, but the doctors can prescribe it anyway. So this is what we don't understand. The FDA is not the decider of what doctors can use. The FDA is a decider of what manufacturers can market and treat. These medications are already out there. So the FDA is irrelevant, really. We should be dealing with the AMA and all those people saying, okay, what's going to happen? But because, of course, anchor people and media people and politicians know nothing about medicine, this has taken a while to drum up. And then in D.C., you're just full of politicians. You're just not going to have doctors at the NIH or Walter Reed go, oh, you know, we don't practice medicine at the FDA. Because they're all friends. They've all known each other for 20 years. They're not going to say that. So someone else has got to break the glass. And that's what I like about Trump. He's willing to break the glass and send CNN and MSNBC into coronary fits.
You know, you are the best at what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since we've had him on the program. He will be back, I guarantee it. And he's the president of LabMD and a good friend of this program and the author of the book called The Devil Inside the Beltway. Michael Dougherty, God bless you, man, and thanks for coming on the program.
Oh, good to see you. Take care, Beth.
All right, take care. Thank you. Love having him on. Straight shooter. Always has been, and he's 20 years experience in diagnostic laboratory medicine. He understands what he's talking about, and he knows what he's talking about. Before I go to the weather, real quick, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I am great. What can I do for you, sir?
This is Chuck Driscoll, a Veteran Service Officer. I just wanted to remind people that my office is open. Even though this virus thing is going on, my office is open. Please call for an appointment so that we don't expose other people needlessly, but I'm open by appointment.
Chuck, why don't you give us that number, if you would, please?
Sure, it's 678-3599.
Okay, and what are the hours that your office is open on a daily basis?
11 to 5, Monday through Thursday.
Okay. You know, I really thank you for calling, and I thank you for staying open. I just think that we have to keep on providing services, and we can't just crawl in a cave and pull the rock in after us. Chuck, God bless you, man. Thanks for your call.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, sir. Take care. Thank you. Nice man right there, Chuck Driscoll. And anything I can ever do to help him, we will do it. Oh, my goodness. Right now, I've got to get the weather forecast on here. And the weather brought to you this half hour. Boy, oh boy, some really good folks. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. If you're not aware of that name, please kind of memory store that. And remember that they've provided accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, they are the professionals in tax return preparation. And boy, they're busy right now. Tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. They can help you. They will help you. They've got offices in Burley and Rupert. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Right now, old Scottman has the weather.
Maybe a little chance of showers, but other than that, pretty decent weather. Good morning with your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron. For this morning, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers in the afternoon with a high of 52. Slight chance of showers this evening, and then clearing off a bit for a low of 28. Now, for Wednesday, 30% chance of snow, highs of 47. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy with a low of 25. Then for Thursday, partly sunny, high of 45. Friday, warming up just a bit, mostly sunny and a high of 48. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Oh, Scotty, good job. Good job. Thank you, and brought to you by our friends, the professionals, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Accounting services to you, your family, and your business. You get a hold of them today. Offices in Burley and Rupert, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Oh, my. Let's see. What else have I got cooking here this morning? I was noticing that, and you probably heard on the news already this morning, and I might have mentioned it earlier this morning in the first hour, that the Summer Olympics in Tokyo has been stopped, canceled. And they say they may look at 2021 to reestablish a time and a date for the Summer Olympics. And my heart goes out to all the athletes of all the different events. My goodness, they were in training. They absolutely were really going as fast as they could, as hard as they could to keep their bodies in shape and compete for the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. And now everything just, wait a minute. No, we're going to postpone it and possibly have it in 2021. The turmoil and the absolute emotional roller coaster for these athletes that are trying to stay in the exact location with their bodies and their training, it must be terrible. They must be really suffering. And to all the Olympians and all the athletes, I feel sorry for you. I really do. It's just like, wow, we're ready to go. We're ready to go and compete. We're ready to run. We're ready to have the track and field events. And all of a sudden now we've got to wait. It's just inexplicable how this has happened and why. Want to remind you that not too long ago, a couple of months ago, I was, along with my beautiful wife, introduced to silver purchases through 7K Metals. And I really, really like this because you can help yourself. Yourself is the key word right there. Build your financial security and your future through silver purchases. And these folks with 7K Metals, they'll kind of walk you through the whole thing. And the nice thing is these purchases come right to your home, and it's a great saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. I really do urge you to contact two friends of mine that I really have a lot of respect for, Lon Hardy at 312-8699 and Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. And please tell them I told you to call and that you really need to find out more information about silver purchases and 7K Metals. They'll help you. You just give them a call today. What have we got coming up next hour? Well, we're going to have Dr. History. It's going to be a little bit different today because Dr. History is going to be on the landline from his office to my studio. And he's going to have another of his great, great Western stories on at 10:06. Then I really can't wait to talk to one of my favorite people and one of the people that I trust. He's written a lot of books. He's got a new book called, right now, Real World Socialism. And Dr. Gerard Lamerlo is going to be with us at 10:30. And we're going to talk about this coronavirus scare, what it's doing to politics, what it's doing to jobs, what it's going to be possibly doing to the future of this country. All of this coming up in the next hour. Right now, we'll turn it over to Wheels, old buddy, old pal. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning, good morning. Keep a stiff upper lip. Everybody smile. Have a good day. Make it a good day. Zeb at the Ranch, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you right now with a big, really big spring tire sale. And, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And our dear friends at Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Oh, my. You know, I love their attitude over there. They are absolutely one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen at 1221 21st Street. They offer 3 meals a day. They offer transportation downtown and around the area for what you need, and, of course, snacks. And they really are providing a safe, sane, and sanitary place for their residents where they try to keep the biggest concern of the day limited to which dessert should be chosen. And boy, do they have some good food over there. Don't forget, Greystone Crossing. Number to call, and I urge you to do so, is call 650-4979. Matt and Kelly Wiggins at Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, one of my dear friends, and has been for, oh my goodness, 20 years, I guess. He didn't have all the gray hair he has when he started. Good morning, Dr. History. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. And you're right. The hair has gotten a little grayer than it was.
But I have to admit, at least both of us still have hair.
That's true. For a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Listen, we're doing this program just this week on a remote basis. Next week, we're going to be teamed up in the same studio again. But every single week, and I had 4 people call me yesterday on my cell phone. And your program is so popular, they're saying, well, what's he going to talk about? Bank robberies? Is he going to talk about stagecoach robberies? What's he going to talk about today?
Well, and, they just have to live in suspense till the time comes, right?
Okay.
So here we go. But before we start, I want to say hi to a couple of people. Bill in South Dakota, Jimmy, who offered me some magazines with stories in them, and Jeff, a longtime listener, and Jessica and her dad, Gary, over there in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin.
Oh, my goodness, that's my old stomping grounds.
I know. So just want to say hi and hope they're all doing good.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about law enforcement, or sometimes the other side of the law.
Okay.
Thousands of men enforce the law on the western frontier as constables, sheriffs, policemen, marshals, detectives. And most of the work involved pretty routine things like collecting taxes, seeing that licenses were up to date, arresting wife beaters, keeping a lid on the illegal sale of booze, checking on store doors at night, and generally making sure things were under control in the saloons and one thing and another. And gun duels, hangings, and, chasing stage and train robberies were not nearly as frequent as TV and movie would suggest. So for the most part, it probably is somewhat of a boring job, I would say. Now, most lawmen were on the up and up. Virgil Earp, Bill Tillman, Charlie Siringo, and they met with some kind of extraordinary circumstances during their careers, but they each performed admirably in their law enforcement positions across several western states and territories. And the men provided to be dependable when they had a badge on, but not so much when they didn't have a badge. For example, Virgil's brother Wyatt was once arrested for riding off on someone else's horse. You just don't do that.
So, in other words, in simple terminology, he was a hoss thief.
That pretty much describes it. But, there were still others who were just plain no good. For example, elected Marshal of Nevada City, California in 1856, Henry Plummer showed his true colors the following year. He went after a wife beater, arrested him, and then ended up killing him. And they didn't particularly like that, so they sentenced him to the San Quentin prison for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But he landed in what soon became Montana Territory in 1863, and he convinced the locals to elect him sheriff of Bannock in the new Gold Strike region. And in a matter of weeks, the Plummer gang committed scores of robberies and murders. Well, the Montana people of Bannock up there in Virginia City, you know what I'm talking about, Zeb, up there by
I do.
Montana,
Mm-hmm.
up in that area.
Yep.
Virginia City and Nevada City. But anyway, the vigilantes kind of ran out of patience with him. So in January 1864, they went on a hanging spree. And in the deadliest episode of vigilante justice in U.S. history, the citizen mobs threw 20 men up on the gallows and had a little necktie party.
Woo.
And by late January, they had actually hung about 50 people. So that was a little bit of a deterrent for anybody wanting to break the law. But the most notable victim was this Sheriff Plummer. And the vigilantes hanged him from the gallows on January 10th, 1864.
Uh-huh.
He basically was running a gang, the Plummer gang.
Well, I'm sure that they all had
checkered past or fell on tough times. There was a guy by the name of Billy Blankenship, and he worked his way up from constable to deputy sheriff of Maricopa County in Arizona Territory, and then city marshal of Phoenix in the 1880s. But the death of his daughter kind of turned this poor guy around. He became a drunk. I mean, he just went downhill, and as a result, he fell short on his accounts. He began collecting illegal taxes and was kind of on the take. But to his credit, he ultimately made a full public confession. He apologized and resigned, and he moved on. Went to a place called Jerome, Arizona Territory. Mm-hmm. I'd never heard of that place. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he recognized the disgrace that the people recognized that he was trying to do good, and so the local sheriff hired Billy as a deputy, and within a few years, Blankenship had kind of redeemed himself and rising to become the city marshal of Jerome. So now, around the turn of the 20th century in Arizona Territory, the big name lawman was U.S. Marshal Ben Daniels. Daniels claimed a colorful frontier background as a Kansas buffalo hunter, an assistant marshal in Dodge City, a deputy sheriff in Bent County, Colorado, a city marshal in Cripple Creek, Colorado, and later in Guthrie, Oklahoma Territory, and actually was a respected member of Theodore Roosevelt's Rough Riders. Could you say it again, please? Sorry, my phone is going off.
I noticed that.
Yes.
Would you hang up and dial again, please?
So here we go. We're back to Ben Daniels. Anyway, so like I say, he was in Cuba's on the San Juan Heights, going up with the Rough Riders with President Roosevelt in 1902. Shortly after that Daniels appointment, however, some of the past caught up with him. In his 20s, he'd been arrested for stealing army mules and spent 3 years in the Wyoming penitentiary. Well, when word reached Roosevelt about the marshal's kind of buried criminal record, the president asked for his resignation. And fortunately for Daniels, Roosevelt and others believed that his long, distinguished law enforcement career more than compensated for his youthful misdeeds, if you want to call it that. And on the president's urging, the incoming governor appointed Daniels superintendent of the territorial prison at Yuma. And in 1905, the president reappointed him U.S. Marshal of Arizona Territory. And in later years, Daniels served as sheriff of Pima County. So despite the fact that he'd stolen some mules when he was a kid, they kind of overlooked that, and he went on to be a pretty good law enforcement guy. But, taking care of number one was consideration of a lot of the lawmen who crossed the line. There's a guy by the name of Wiley Lewis of Pasadena, California, and he was recommended to the post by the chief of police, and this Wiley was kind of an observer of homes and stores while walking his beat in 1919. He had a large family but couldn't make ends meet on his salary, so he kind of chased his routes. He borrowed a few automobiles from friends and robbed right and left for months. He gave new meaning to putting food on the table because he stole some hams, barrels of sugar, and a ton of canned goods. He also made off with bicycles, car tires, a brass bed, paintings, and clothes. This guy went for everything, And when they searched his home, they found all this loot, and he ended up in San Quentin.
Mm-hmm.
His habit of stealing kind of went down the drain. But anyway, now there's another guy named Frank Dyer. He was appointed U.S. Marshal of Utah in 1886, and he served for 3 years. And he was also a careful man with his money. And, for example, after charging the government for seed potatoes, he had prisoners plant and weed the spuds, then sold the produce to the government for use in the prison. And that's not all. He took a similar approach with dairy cows. He charged the government for feed, had the prisoners milk the cows, then sold the milk back to the federal prison. So I thought that was kind of a unique way to kind of get around things. Add a little more money to your pocket.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Dr. History. Isn't that exactly what the government's doing to us?
Well, I don't have any cows there. But among the most intriguing of Western lawmen was a guy by the name of Johnny Behan. And I've actually talked about him before. And his career spanned 3 decades. He He was, among other things, a member of the Arizona Territorial Legislature, a sheriff of 2 counties, superintendent of the Yuma Territorial Prison, a school inspector, a tax collector, a federal border inspector, but he's best known, of course, as the Cochise County Sheriff, who sided with the Cowboys, some say they were rustlers, in their dispute with the Earps in Tombstone, Arizona. And he was unable to prevent the October 1881 gunfight near the OK Corral, and he kind of testified at great length against his fellow lawmen, Virgil and Wyatt Earp, in the aftermath of that. So he was certainly no hero, and wherever he settled and whatever position he held, controversy seemed to follow. He was perpetually in court, being sued or suing somebody. And Behan appeared in court 5 times to answer felony charges for his actions while he was the sheriff of Cochise County. So he was a bit of a renegade. But wherever he popped up, one could count on several things. Number one, he would win the people over. He was kind of a good talker, I guess, and he would land a good job. But during or after his term of office, there would be investigations and charges and likely court action. So Behan was not exactly above the law, so to speak, even though he was the law. And then we talk about a guy that you have heard of, and I think most people have, Tom Horn. And in his day, he was a prominent frontier personality. He served the Army in the 1870s and 80s as an outstanding tracker on various sorties against the Apaches in Arizona Territory. He then ranched for a while. He served... What's that, Zeb?
I didn't say anything. For once, I've been really quiet and well-behaved.
Well, you're kind of scratchy on my end of the phone, so I can't hear you very good. So anyway, I'll continue. So Tom Horn ranched for a time, served as a deputy sheriff during the territory's bloody Pleasant Valley War, and later hired out as a gun hand, or some people might say a paid assassin, for the livestock interests on the northern plains. But like Behan, wherever Horn went, controversy usually followed. He easily made both friends and enemies, and for some years he worked as a Pinkerton detective out of the agency's Denver office, though he wasn't really very effective. In fact, in April of 1891, someone robbed a faro game in Reno, and soon after, local authorities apprehended Detective Horn on an outbound express train. They searched him, and they found a mask, a pistol, and the money. And anyway, after some legal proceedings, Horn walked free. Now, according to a fellow Pinkerton man, Charlie Siringo, the agency knew Horn was guilty, but they couldn't afford the hit to its reputation from a conviction. Well, and in later years, Horn worked as a deputy sheriff and as a hired gun for the Wyoming cattle barons. And there, in a controversial drunken confession, he reportedly admitted killing a local rancher's son. And here's what he said about that. He said, quote, "The best shot I ever made and the dirtiest trick I ever done." And we've talked about that, how he shot and killed the rancher's boy, maybe by mistake, but we don't know. But anyway, guilty or not, the folks in Wyoming had had enough. Horn was tried, convicted, and hung in Cheyenne, November 20th, 1903. Now we move on to another guy. A guy named Ben Thompson was another lawman. The Texans who hired him must have figured a gunfighter with experience on the frontier was just the sort of guy they needed as a peace officer. Now, British-born Thompson arrived in Texas as a boy. He grew into adulthood as a wanderer and sometimes gambler who killed several men in Mexico. He knew his way around, figuring he was ready to work the other side of the law. He ran for city marshal of Austin in 1879, but didn't make it. He was voted down. In 1880, the citizens elected him marshal, though one historian claimed Thompson, quote, seldom spent a sober day on the job. So he tended to imbibe a bit, I guess. So in July of 1882, during a family vacation in San Antonio, the marshal came across a longtime enemy by the name of Jack Harris. And they met in a kind of a theater saloon. They kind of looked at each other, dirty looks, and Thompson assumed Harris was going for his gun, and he says, I drew and fired, and the marshal spent some months in jail before being acquitted. Well, 2 years later, Thompson dropped by this same theater for a drink, and the new owners recognized him, and they still had a grudge against him killing their previous owner. And they gunned down Thompson right there, and the court later said, well, it was justified. He deserved it.
Oh, my.
So the law and those with the law kind of took it into their own hands a lot of times. So now we go to another guy named Henry Newton Brown. Okay, he was raised in Missouri before drifting further west. He worked both sides of the law amid grabbing events on the wild frontier. After his buffalo hunting days, he joined up with Billy the Kid's regulators during the Lincoln County War in New Mexico Territory and was among the participants in the ambush killing of Sheriff William Brady. Now, a subsequent indictment for murder prompted him to head out to Texas. And here he actually became deputy sheriff of a place called Oldham County. And he later settled in Caldwell, Kansas, where he served as assistant city marshal, then city marshal. And his approval rating was so high that citizens reelected him several times and actually presented him with this really, really nice engraved Winchester rifle. Well, this kind of went to his head, and it kind of maybe convinced him he was above the law. So Marshal Brown grabbed his new Winchester, recruited a good friend of his, and headed for Medicine Lodge, Kansas, whose bank they decided was easy pickings. Well, things didn't go well. On entering the lobby, the would-be robbers got into a deadly shootout in which the bank president and a cashier were killed. Brown and the gang fled under fire without a single dollar. They didn't get any money. Well, a posse soon captured and jailed the two guys, and a lynch mob came to get them. Bursting through the crowd, Brown almost got away, but a shotgun blast ended his short-lived career as a criminal. In jail, he'd penned a note to his wife containing the great statement, I didn't think this would happen. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. Now, such cases of crossing the line, shifting values, or downright evil-doing was far from the norm among the Western peace officers. Most of them said they just did a good job, and we don't hear so much about them. But on taking the oath, most fulfilled it to the best of their abilities. Texas Ranger John Reynolds Hughes, for one, was an exemplary lawman, boasting a 3-decade career spent in the pursuit of criminals and occasionally shootouts with them. He went wherever trouble raised his head, from El Paso to Brownsville. In retirement, the lawman, who lived pretty frugally and saved diligently, became the chairman and largest stockholder of an Austin bank, and Hughes retained a prominent place in the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame in Waco.
Wow. Let me...
that guy, Canadian-born lawman Seth Bullock, migrated south to Montana Territory in 1867. He was elected to the Territorial Senate and had much to do with early Yellowstone developments. In 1873, he was elected sheriff of Lewis and Clark County. Drawn to Deadwood, Dakota Territory 3 years later by some business opportunities spawned by the gold rush, he instead accepted an appointment as sheriff over there in Deadwood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in addition to safeguarding local mining and cattle interests, he proved an effective forest supervisor of the Black Hills Reserve. And in 1905, President Roosevelt appointed him U.S. Marshal for South Dakota, and he had that for about 9 years. But decades of service with integrity were the hallmark of his life. He was just a good guy. I've got a couple more guys here. There's a guy named Bob Paul. His career in the far West was also a model of dedication and integrity, beginning with his arrival in the California goldfields in 1848. First elected as a town constable in 1854. He served off and on as a lawman for nearly 40 years. Paul was a sheriff in both California and Arizona Territory. He worked as a special messenger for Wells Fargo, and in 1890 was appointed U.S. Marshal of Arizona Territory by then-President Benjamin Harrison. At his death in 1901, he was serving as a Justice of the Peace in Tucson. Now, you know, of course, few Western lawmen were as distinguished as these guys, Hughes, Bullock, and Paul, let alone approaching the fame of Virgil Earp, Bill Tillman, or Charlie Siringo. But, you know, the majority of mostly forgotten badge wearers may not have had stellar careers, but they nevertheless answered the call to service. They put in long hours, low pay, safeguarding the citizens, and thankfully the dramatic upsetting sagas of sheriffs planning bank robberies or getting drunk while on job were really more rare exceptions than they were the rule. So,
right.
We hear about the bad guys that were on the take. They robbed their own banks. They killed their own citizens, and yet the majority of I'm going to say were just good, honest, hardworking men trying to do what they needed to do.
All right, now I've got to jump in here, Doc, because we've only got a minute left, and I've got to ask you a quick question, and tell me if I'm wrong. John Wesley Hardin was a known killer, and didn't he at one point in his career, when he tried to reform, if you will, didn't he become a deputy sheriff for a while?
I know I've done a story on him, but it's been so long I can't remember for sure. But I think you're right. I think you are right. I'd have to check that.
Well, I appreciate your walk down memory lane with all the sheriffs and all the good and bad guys, the Earps, etc., and outstanding job. I really appreciate that this morning. Dr. History, of course, on our program, and I'm almost out of time. And next week we'll be in the studio together so we can throw rocks at each other, and I appreciate your being on the program this morning. Thank you, Dr. History.
Have a good day.
God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Always look forward to that segment with Dr. History. He's outstanding, all the stories that he's put together. Don't forget our friends at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. I am really looking forward. Thursday, I'm going to have Curtis on my program where we have our business salute, and I'm going to ask him all kinds of questions about all the different electronic gizmos that they have over there. They've got everything. And along with all the home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, car stereos, speakers, complete sound systems, all your television sets, Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, they've got it all. And they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and they would love to serve you. Come on in, 421 East Main in Burley. It's Patterson's Electronics with wonderful people, Curtis and Lorena, and don't forget the number to give them a call, 678-6997, Patterson's Electronics. And right now, we'll send it over to Wheels and be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They are continuing their great big anniversary sale. Holy moly, 40 to 50% off on all furniture and mattresses. Ho. You better get in and check out all the great buys today for the comfortization and the beautifying of your home. My goodness sakes, listen to this. They've got recliners starting at just $249. They've got sectionals starting at just $699. And, of course, all your flooring and your carpet, you check it all out. And this is a great big sale, up to 4 years interest-free on approved credit at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see Jeff and the crew right now today. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a friend of mine that has been on this program many, many times, and I feel blessed that he has taken the time to come on our show. He's the author of many, many books, and he knows what's going on. The latest book that he has written is called Real World Socialism, and we're going to be talking about the political theater that's going on today, along with the coronavirus problem. And I'd like to introduce right now my friend, Dr. Gerard Lameiro. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I hope you're doing terrific.
I am, and it is absolutely a pleasure, my pleasure, to have you on this program again. Dr. Lameiro, let me start off by asking you this. In simple terminology, will this threat, if you will, of the coronavirus scare, will it alter our elections and our government?
No, not at all. The presidential election cake, so to speak, is in the oven baking, and Donald Trump is going to win by a rather large electoral vote margin. We don't know who the Democrat nominee is, but neither of them, Bernie Sanders nor Joe Biden, can beat Donald Trump. And if they come up with someone else, we don't know exactly how they'll do until we find out who that person is. However, extraordinarily unlikely that they can win. I do not think any Democrat can win. I think the things that are going on today as we speak, the Democrats coming to grips with trying to stimulate the economy a little bit with a lot of people unemployed, and then the Democrats, flying in, Nancy Pelosi flying in from California to Washington saying, no, I want to do my own bill, and then her bill turns out to be a Christmas tree full of all the stuff they couldn't pass normally, all the stuff, the money for Planned Parenthood, money to make the airlines green, to make them less polluting and less fuel efficient. And guess what? They're not flying, and they want to make the airlines give them more hardship. Ridiculous. No, that's turning people off. They may lose by a slightly larger margin, but it's not going to affect the election.
Dr. Lamero, I'm going to ask questions of you that I don't want you to think less of me, but I want you to, if you think I'm wrong, chide me on this. But all of this is just falling into place too easy, like a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, we saw the Mueller report. We saw the impeachment attempts. We now, of course, are involved in the coronavirus. And sometimes I'm beginning to think that a lot of these problems, if you will, are manufactured for nothing more than the left to try to hurt Trump and the right and conservative politics. How wrong am I?
I don't think you're wrong. I think we don't know the precise origin of this crisis, but we do know, in my book, Real World Socialism, talks a lot about socialism. I know from the history of socialism, one of the ways they try to get people to convert to socialism is create a crisis and then have the government save you. And I think there's no question that even if they didn't purposely start this somehow, that they're going to exploit it. You know that saying about never let a good crisis go to waste. They want to use the crisis to help them. And if they were having to fight against a beautiful economy, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of these blue states with Democrat governors shutting down everything. They want to make sure the economy is really bad as they can get it before the election, because they're hoping that somehow that will help. We know, listening to Hollywood, I remember one particular host on TV saying, well, if we had a recession this year, that'd be kind of good to hurt Trump, even if we had a recession. Well, so some of these people would like to see this happen, and it's happening, and they're probably happy. But affect the election? No way.
You're referring to Bill Maher on HBO, and I found that remark to be very repulsive. But there again, it lays the groundwork for all kinds of thought about manufactured problems. Let me ask you this. With the elderly being the most susceptible to the so-called coronavirus and the possibility of a death that could evolve from contracting the virus, are they going to stay home in the next election? And then with their staying home and the millennials never turning out to go vote, wow, what's going to happen at the polls?
Well, first of all, I really believe that we are peaking. I'm looking at the numbers very closely. I downloaded all the European numbers, which are worldwide numbers. I looked at the state-by-state numbers. I'm looking at, this is a forecast modeler's delight when you have all these numbers given to you. I've been looking at these numbers, and I think in a lot of places, including in certain states in the U.S., we are peaking already. And what they mean there is that the number of new cases is not going up; it's starting to go down. And whenever that happens, that's a great sign, because that means you're past the peak and you're past the crisis, if you will. And I believe that we're going to pass the crisis in the United States by mid-April to mid-May, 80% chance.
Dr. Lamero, we have a caller calling in with a question right now, and then I'll ask some more of my own. Caller, please, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, there's a thing called herd immunity, where people who are just out and about, and whether or not they're young or old, if your immune system is strong, you get it, and maybe you don't even realize you get it, or maybe you have some symptoms. But then, as more and more people have gotten over it, there's less place for the virus to land and live. And so I think that this was the thought in England, where they said, if you're old, stay in your house. If you're young, go out and create a herd immunity. And so, like you're saying, the numbers are starting to peak. And I think that in a week, I think you're right. And I think that getting this economy back roaring is quicker the better. I'll hang up. Thanks.
Respond to the caller, please, if you would, Dr. Lamero.
The caller's a smart gentleman. I think he's absolutely correct. There is that herd effect, no question about it, and I really do believe that he's precisely correct. The latest numbers I saw earlier today, maybe it was late last night, we once thought there was going to be 80% of people would have mild cases. We're now determining that from the numbers, 97% of people who get it get very little. They get almost nothing. Mm-hmm. And some of them probably have it and don't even know it, and they'll never know it because they'll never get anything, and they won't get tested because they have no symptoms. So I think that's going on. I think this was way overblown. I think the media wanted to overblow it, and we're kind of hoping the economy would drop because they were hoping they could do something to stop Trump from getting reelected. But he's doing a great job. He's got companies working together with the government to make masks, to make ventilators. He sent that Navy ship to Los Angeles, another ship to New York. He's in charge. He's got a problem. He's going to solve it. But you know what? He did a smart thing. He said 15 days. We're going to look at the numbers. And you know what he's going to find out? Just what I'm saying. It's peaking. And after 15 days, maybe it's time to take our foot off the brakes and let this economy roar.
Absolutely. Dr. Lamero, let me ask you, I thought that Joe Biden, and of course now I'm going to sound prejudiced against Joe Biden, and I am. I don't like the man, I don't like his politics, and I do not want to see him elected as president. But I thought he did something that was extremely low class this last week when he started his own band of doctors and supposed professionals that they were going to go on television and contradict or counter whatever President Trump and his people said from the White House about the coronavirus. What were your thoughts about what Biden did? I just thought it was low class.
Well, I think it's worse than low class. I think it's just plain un-American, unpatriotic. I mean, let's face it, there are people who are sick. There's some elderly up in Seattle in a nursing home that died. There are quite a few sick cases in New York City, and that's unfortunate. But what you don't do is try to get in the way of the President of the United States, who's trying to solve this problem as best he can, trying to basically keep people from getting it and cutting down the number and the impact on the hospitals, and get in their way and try to cause people to be frustrated and get in the way of the president. I think it's un-American, unpatriotic, and he should be ashamed of himself.
I have got to ask you what your response is to Louisiana Senator John Kennedy when yesterday, leaving the Senate chambers, he said, and I quote, "This country was founded by geniuses, but now is being run by idiots."
I have a feeling he's talking about some of the people of the other party, and that because there's some people that are more trying to get that Christmas tree ornaments in that bill, trying to get money for the airline air pollution, the green deals and Planned Parenthood deals, all sorts of stuff that don't pertain to what the economy needs, and I think that's probably what he really had in the back of his head.
On a scale of 1 to 10, when you look at the news and discern what really is honest in the news and what the Democrats are trying as last-ditch efforts to hurt the Trump administration leading up to November, are you going to hold fast to what you said on programs that I've had you on many times in the past, that this could be the fragmentation and the dissolving of the Democratic Party?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't change my forecast. Those forecasts are solid unless there's some major upheaval that goes on. But they just continue to follow the script. And the script is something the American people are rejecting. And that's the reason it's happening, and I think it's going to happen. I think the Democratic Party has existed for a long time, but I think it's at the end of its life. You know, not every party lives forever. The Whigs were very successful, as I always tell people, in the 1800s, but you don't see any Whigs running for office this year.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about a problem that we need to correct, regardless of how bona fide the coronavirus is or not. And that's, of course, letting another country, namely China, an archenemy, process and manufacture all of our medicines to the tune where we pay $180 billion with a B dollars a year to China to basically try to keep us healthy. This has got to stop.
Absolutely, and by the way, this virus, the one good thing, the silver lining, is the fact that it wakes up America, and it has woken up America to the fact that we are beholden to the Chinese for all things medicines. We've invented most of these medicines, and just to save a few bucks on manufacturing, we've let them go outsourced. And by the way, a lot of that happened in prior administrations, but Donald Trump was awake when he was elected president. He knew the trade things that were going on were against this country. He didn't want it to happen. And now the Republicans see this as also true, and Trump sees this. And Tom Cotton, the senator, has introduced legislation that will not allow America to stay dependent on a foreign country, especially a communist country. I mean, those people are adamantly against capitalism and freedom. They don't have any freedom in that country. And so we are going to become medical and pharmaceutical and drug independent, just like Donald Trump made us energy independent. And we need to do that because, you know, even their news agency, the official Chinese news agency, has threatened to withhold drugs to the American people when we invented them.
You know, I want to ask you about one other subject, and I think, and tell me again if you think I'm wrong, that what's happening now, there are some good things that are going to come out of this coronavirus scare. And I think one of the things is I hope it will nail the nails in the coffin against single-payer insurance in this country. Because I think if we were all relegated to single-payer insurance to where we're all going to get the same treatment, all the same doctors, etc., I think we're going to see healthcare go down so much in this country that research won't be available. I think that this is a good thing because it's going to open up a Pandora's box of we need more intelligent young people to get involved in medical research and make things better. How wrong do you think I am?
I don't think you're wrong at all. You're 100% correct. Single payer, also called, you know, Medicare for all the different names they've got for the same awful stuff, basically makes the government in charge of everybody's health. And I think that's dangerous in itself, to have a bureaucrat telling you whether or not you should get a shot or you should get a procedure or a surgery that you need. And, you know, in foreign countries that have single-payer systems, boy, they have to fly to the United States when they need real health care because they can't get it there. So I think you're 100% correct, and I think this actually does actually set back the socialist ideas here in this country that they're trying to say it's better, and it is not better. The evidence is against it. I've written about it for years. 10 years ago or 13 years ago, I wrote a book that was about mentioned that, and it's still the same today. If you're a socialist country with socialized medicine, forget it. Forget health care. It's not like in this country, which is where it's good.
When you look at the situation now, I think you're 100% right on. Donald Trump is going to come out of this coronavirus as even more popular with the American people than he is now. What fears do you have, Doctor, as far as what next from the Democrats before November?
I'm not in the least bit afraid of anything, and I mean that. I think this country is strong. I think the president is strong. I think he's smart enough to have got rid of some of the deep staters, and he's kept some really good people in jobs. I think the American people are tuned in, and they're listening, and they're smart, and they're like you. They listen to smart people on the radio, and they know what's going on. And I think the real fun is going to come in November when the Democrats lose the House, lose another seat or two in the Senate. Trump is reelected by a wide margin, and starting in 2021, the economy is going to be booming.
Absolutely. We have one more quick call. I've only got 2 minutes left. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly. Caller, quickly. You're on the air. Real fast.
Hello?
Yes, go fast. Evidently, the caller... Can you hear, caller? Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I can't hardly hear, but, people are going to realize that, once you've lost something, you realize what you had. And I think the awareness level in this country is going to go up immensely, and it's going to be an awareness of how important capitalism is. Thank you.
All right. Respond to the caller quickly, if you would, Dr. Lamero.
You bet. I agree with the caller. Another smart caller. You've got a great audience, Zeb. He's smart. He's got it right in tune.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to this man, Dr. Gerard Lamero, and, of course, his new book. You've got to read it. It's excellent. Real World Socialism, Spiritual, Moral, and Economic Bankruptcy, sold by using false hopes and deceit. Dr. Gerard Lamero. My friend, I'm going to ask you this question because I'm concerned. How are you feeling as of late?
I feel terrific.
Well, if any indication is the sound of your voice, you sound like you're ready to become a cheerleader, and I'll tell you what, I really admire you for it. God bless you, and thanks for being on the program.
God bless you and all your wonderful audience.
All right. Dr. Gerard Lamero, I love that man on my program, and he knows. I mean, he has been absolutely one of the best political analysts and experts on forecasts of what's going to happen politically in this nation. He's spot on. We really appreciate him. Callers, we thank you. I don't know. Wheels, why are we having some trouble with people hearing me when I'm saying hello? Do you have any idea?
I believe it's just because I'm having to jockey back and forth, so you're not getting a ton of feedback.
Okay, well,
I apologize, though.
All right, well, we'll try to rectify that. Weather forecast, I guess I better rectify that and go to the weather forecast. Run, of course, this hour for our friends at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, and you can go to their website and check out all the delicious meats from scarrowsmeats.com. If you're having a gathering or a party or some kind of a social event and you need the best and tastiest of meats, you get a hold of Scarrows Meats in Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657, Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Scott Man with the weather.
Maybe a little chance of showers, but other than that, pretty decent weather. Good morning with your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron. For this morning, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers in the afternoon with a high of 52. Slight chance of showers this evening and then clearing off a bit for a low of 28. Now, for Wednesday, 30% chance of snow, highs of 47. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy with a low of 25. Then for Thursday, partly sunny, high of 45. Friday, warming up just a bit, mostly sunny and a high of 48. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Oh, boy, Scotty, I'll tell you, thank you much. Don't forget all the pork ribs and the tri-tips and all the bacons and the sausages and the bratwurst. Oh, the list goes on and on. Delicious meats from Scarrows Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. And it's true, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Tomorrow on the program, let's see, what the heck is tomorrow? Wednesday already. Why, we've got Dave Beagle, we've got Dan Perkins, we've got all kinds of great guests coming on the program. Dan down in Florida, another great political analyst, he's going to be on the program. And we'll look forward to having you be a part of it too. I want to remind you about our major sponsor, and a big shout out and thank you to all 7 of the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They have really put in double duty, double time to ensure all their customers and employees that they're protected to the best extent possible right now. They do all they can, and you can rely on the fact that when you go in there to your Les Schwab Tire Centers, very clean environment, and they are there to serve you with the best of tires and the best of brake service and front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. And believe me, they're committed to service. Right now, they're having a huge, really big spring tire sale, and I urge you to stop in, regardless of what kind of a vehicle you have, cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. They've got all the tread design, all the sizes, all the tires you need for this big spring tire sale. Stop over and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. That is going to wrap it up and put it back in the box for me today, and we're going to be back here tomorrow at 8:06, and we certainly appreciate and respect all your phone calls. We always end the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. Remember that. And the 4 most important words, in God we trust. Have a great day. Put a smile on your face. Things are going to get better. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06.